So welcome everyone. Today's session is about the Digitalize Your Microbusiness scheme issued by the Measures and Support Division as part of the Business Enhanced Grant Schemes. First, we will start off with a brief description of our services as Servizi Ewropej f'Malta, SEM. And then we will move on to a presentation about the scheme itself, with more details being given by Mr. Mark Muscat from the Measures and Support Division. If you have any queries, feel free to put them in the chat box, and then at the end of the session, we will go through them, or feel free to unmute yourselves at the end of the session to put forth your query. So just some house rules: please keep your microphones off during the session, and ideally your cameras on. It's not obligatory, but it would be nice to see some faces. You can ask your questions in the chat, as I said before, and please refrain from asking very specific questions related to your project. You can also contact us if you have any additional queries after the session, or to assist you with the application on info.sem@gov.mt. I will also make all our details available in our slides. Just a brief overview of what we do. SEM stands for Servizi Ewropej f'Malta, and what we do is we serve as a gateway to EU funds. So we make EU funds more widespread locally, so all types of EU funded programs. So we give information. We are committed to inform, but also help and assist in the submission of project applications, and also support any successful applications then in the implementation phase of projects. How can we assist you? We provide information sessions such as this on an ongoing basis to provide further information about open schemes or upcoming schemes. We also have training sessions on project application and also on project implementation. So those are two types of training sessions, but we also have others. We also provide one-to-one meetings. So if you have a project idea, you may also approach us and we can assist you in this regard. We can help you in 3 ways. We can help you in writing the application. So either by assisting you by vetting. So you provide us with the application already filled in, and then we vet either with comments or else with feedback. So we provide further feedback, or else we can literally assist you in developing the project idea from start to finish, and also in filling in the application. We also assist you after you've been awarded the funds with project implementation support in abiding to the contract and so on and so forth. In terms of project development, first of all, we assist you in developing the project idea so that it is very competitive for funding. We help you understand what's eligible and what's not under this call, and also we help you structure your project idea by developing a needs analysis, aims, objectives, activities, impact, and also evaluation. We also assist with project writing, as I said, with comments, with amendments, and also with completion. And in project implementation, we support you by assisting you in gathering the informative document. So we assist you in the key phases of the project implementation, such as reporting, and we provide guidance throughout the project timeline or lifetime. And if you need any additional information, we have all of this uploaded to our website, which is sem.gov.mt. There are very informative documents, both on project implementation, but also with regards to open calls and how we can assist you, all uploaded there. This is our contact slide. sem.gov.mt is our website. If you need further information, you can contact us through info.sem@gov.mt. Our phone number is 2779-7300. You can also visit us at our offices in Valletta. So that's just a brief overview of our services. We will now move on to Mr. Mark Mark Muscat, sorry, from the Measures and Support Division. Mark, I give the floor to you.
Thank you, Michaela. Let me see if I can manage to share my screen as well. Share. So if you could confirm that you are, the screen is being shared and that you can see.
Confirmed.
Excellent. So let me start on my presentation. The scheme falls within the Recovery and Resilience Plan for Malta. And our division, the Measures and Support Division, implements two investment reforms. One is to intensify the digitalization of the private sector, whereas the second one is the renovation of private sector buildings for retrofitting and energy efficiency. Today, this presentation will focus on one of the schemes that we have. We have three schemes addressing digitalization of the private sector, one of which is the Digitalise Your Micro Business, which is what we're going to be talking about today. The scheme was announced a few weeks back. Its budget is of 2 million, and it is only micro enterprises who are eligible. What are micro enterprises? A micro enterprise is an enterprise which employs 9 people or less and has a turnover and balance sheet of less than 2 million per year. The majority of enterprises in Malta are micro enterprises. The maximum grant that you can receive under this scheme is of 10,000 euros. You are only able to submit one application under the scheme, and the aid intensity is 50% for investments based in Malta, and an additional 10%, i.e. 60% for investment based in Gozo. This means that the maximum grant amount will remain the same. However, it will depend on how much the item or items being applied for will actually cost. Aid under the scheme is awarded under the de minimis aid regime. The de minimis aid regime is a state aid regulation which limits assistance over a period of 3 years to a maximum of 200,000 per year, not just by scheme, but from assistance given from government agencies and entities. For example, one of the schemes which falls under the de minimis is the Micro Invest administered by Malta Enterprise. What is eligible under the scheme? Commercial off-the-shelf software, something that you can buy ready-made off the shelf, or it might also be a subscription-based software, and we will then be able to assist for a 2-year subscription under the scheme. Any hardware, such as, for example, laptops, docking stations, port replicators, monitors, tablets, essentially anything, any hardware which can be considered as increasing the digitalization of your enterprise. Costs relating to cloud computing can also be is also considered eligible under the scheme, and any training costs related to the above. It's important to note that anything that has already started or a commitment has been entered into, such as order or a payment of a deposit, is not considered eligible for aid. the process has to be an application is made for aid under the scheme. The board then evaluates all applications received, and if the application is accepted, it is only then that you can initialize on work related to the scheme. For anything applied for under the scheme, it has to be concluded within 3 months. Essentially, it shouldn't even really take that long because it's just a question of ordering and having the item delivered. And under the scheme, all applications will be assessed only against the gateway criteria. Basically, we will make our checks to ensure that the application is complete and the applicant themselves is eligible. I'll go into a little bit more detail on what these criteria are later in the presentation. In fact, here we are. Essentially, we need to make sure that the application is complete, has been submitted in time, and the correct documents have been uploaded. We need also to make sure that whoever is applying is eligible for aid, and therefore we need to be sure that the applicant is a micro-sized enterprise. It is worth keeping in mind that we do not just consider the applicant themselves, but any linked or partner enterprises they might hold in terms of shareholders, control, and directorships. There are a very small number of economic sectors which cannot be assisted through the scheme, and therefore we also need to make sure that whoever is applying is indeed eligible. We also check whether the items for which aid is being requested are eligible, and also that they will be implemented within the time frame indicated of 3 months. And as outlined earlier, no commitment or start of works can be effected prior to the signing of the grant agreement. What is the process? Essentially, you need to create, register an account on the sfd.gov.mt portal, which is our online application portal. The applications are submitted entirely online, and an application is created on the portal. The application is formulated and developed, perhaps with assistance from Servizi Europei of Malta, or it might be the case that you decide to do it yourselves. The necessary documentation is then uploaded and submitted, and then you save the application into documents and the email received confirming submission so that you can keep it internally in your own file. What kind of documents are required at application stage? A declaration. The declaration is part of the application and confirms that the applicant will adhere to the terms and conditions. Tax compliance certificates to confirm that the applicant has no pending liabilities vis-a-vis FSS, income tax, and VAT, or that any pending liabilities that they have are covered by an agreement. Both are considered acceptable. NACE code confirmation. It's all well and good telling us that the NACE code is 12.34. However, we need confirmation that it is actually that NACE code. The minimis declaration, as outlined earlier, there is a limit of 200,000 in terms of aid an undertaking will have received over the last 3 years, and in this form, the applicant will indicate what kind of assistance they have received. If no previous assistance was received, then it can be filled in as a nil reply, essentially, but the document will still need to be submitted. And we will require 1 instance of market testing or a quotation for every item which is being applied for. So if you are applying for a laptop, a monitor, and a particular software, we will need 1 quote for each. This will make sure that the amount being requested ties in to the market value of the item. And once an application has been approved, the applicant can go ahead and purchase the item from the quotation provided. A declaration of authorization is required in the case that whoever is representing the company is not one of the directors. For self-employed individual, this is not necessary because obviously they are representing themselves. A certificate of registration, which is the document issued by the Malta Business Registry for companies when they are established. Again, for self-employed individuals, this is clearly not necessary. Same goes for the Memorandum of Articles of Association, which are the statute, let's call it that, for an enterprise, for a company. Again, this is not necessary for self-employed individual. If the applicant has any trustees or fiduciaries, they need to submit a declaration accordingly. And for every enterprise applying, the audited financial statements or management accounts need to be provided. In the case of a self-employed individual, the income tax returns for the last 2 years, as well as the profit and loss account, profit and loss statement, need to be submitted. Call 1 of this scheme is already open. We've already started receiving applications for the scheme. It's managed through an open rolling call, which means that we have cut-off dates twice a month, which have already been announced until the end of the year. The way that applications are reviewed is that we see what applications have been received by every cut-off date, which is generally in the middle of the month and at the end of the month, and the cut-off times are at noon, and they are evaluated accordingly. More information about the scheme and the necessary documents can be found on the funded.eu portal in the Business Enhanced Schemes section, and the Digitalise Your Microbusiness is available. The documents related to it is available there, as well as any other schemes that we currently have open and available for applications. As outlined already, the Measures and Support Division is a division within the Ministry for Economy, European Funds and Land, and we administer grant schemes, as can be seen in the previous slide, under the ERDF, as well as the 2 investment reforms to roll out measures for the private sector under the Recovery and Resilience Scheme plan for Malta. These all are fall within the Business Enhanced umbrella schemes. Those are our contact details. msd.eu funds@gov.mt is our generic account. funded.eu/business-enhance is our online portal. Now, I'm going to see if there are any questions. Seems to be a single yes. Mikkel has already forwarded the documents related to the guidance notes related to the scheme. Now, I don't know if the attendees have any question about anything I've said, or maybe something I haven't said. I have a student who is attending at my office. Ms. Coppini, it makes no difference what employees you have, and even if you have any employees at all, self-employed individuals are indeed eligible to apply. Of course, it then depends on what you wish to apply for, but yes, you can apply for this. Mr. Srirep, we are a cloud service software provider. Do we need to apply for an account as well? I'm not sure exactly why you would need to apply for an account to do what. Perhaps you could elaborate a little bit more. Lindsay has asked me what documents are to be submitted by startups, and let me go back to my slide and share my screen. Actually, let me share the guidance notes for the scheme, if you'll allow me a few seconds to find the document, open it so that I can share the screen. So, Lindsay, as outlined in my earlier slides, a declaration is necessary, 1 quotation is necessary, a de minimis declaration form is necessary, a compliance certificate is necessary. Since you are still a startup, it might well be the case that you won't have any issues with the tax at all. Now, for enterprises which are within the first 2 years from their date of establishment, and therefore they don't have, this is also applicable for self-employed individuals who don't have any accounts at all, we will require a profit and loss account or an income statement. which if you're still starting out might well be nil. We require cash flow projections for the upcoming period, and we require a balance sheet or a statement of assets and liabilities, and these documents have to be certified by a CPA. I hope that answers your query, Lindsay. So let me see exactly what other questions have come in. Ms. Weglars, how is the number of employees verified? We check with Jobs Plus, not about the number of employees who are registered at the moment, at the date of application, but we check the average labor unit on how many employees were registered over the last year. So if you have 11 employees now and you terminate the employment of 2 of them to be considered as micro, it won't work that way. We check over the whole period of the year, essentially. Let me see what other questions have come in. Ms. Coppini, I think I answered the query a little bit earlier. What we check are the number of employees with Jobs Plus. Any other individuals are not taken into consideration because they are not employees. Ms. Trabelsi, add-ons to current software. Add-ons to current software, it really depends on what kind of add-on and what kind of software. But in principle, I don't think there would be any objection at all. Perhaps we can get in touch under separate cover privately later so that you can provide me with more information about the specific program and add-on that you're referring to. Ms. D'Amato, can you please clarify the requirements for a limited company? I'm not sure I understand the question. Can the director be the applicant? If the company applies, there will need to be an authorized representative, which is generally one of the directors, but obviously the aid will be given to the company, and therefore anything purchased, anything applied for and approved will need to be eventually owned by the applicant themselves. Ms. Scoppini, no, exactly as explained, anything being applied for should not have already started. If you already have an Office 365 subscription and you want to upgrade it, that would not be eligible because you have already started it. The concept of the incentive effect, which governs these schemes, means that without our assistance, you would not have entered into that commitment. And it's a little bit hard to make that argument if you have already paid the subscription already. Ms. Schwierep in our... No, Mr. Schwierep, a supplier does not need to be authorized in order for applicants to benefit from their services or products. As long as the quotation provided clearly identifies who the supplier is and the actual item is purchased from that supplier after any eventual approval, that is fine. Yes, Mr. Shikluna, this is essentially the very similar to the SME digitalization scheme. However, it's specifically targeted for micro enterprises. The main difference, I would say, between the scheme and the SME digitalization scheme is that this scheme cannot finance the creation of an e-commerce website, which can be financed under the SME digitalization scheme, as well as the fact that the scheme cannot finance the purchase of custom-made software, which can only be purchased under the SME digitalization scheme. But it is essentially the only difference, apart from obviously the fact that only micro enterprises are eligible for this scheme. Is one proposal enough to apply for the grant? You can apply for the purchase of a single item, and you can apply for the purchase of multiple items, but a single item is fine. Miss Muscat wanted to know if the subscription ends in the coming months and needs to be resubscribed for the coming 2 years, would this be eligible? At the date of application, you cannot be benefiting from a service that you wish us to assist you for. And yes, you can apply for more than one cloud subscription service. It's not a problem at all, no. Mr. Linton. Yes, as outlined in my earlier slide, the grant is 50% of the item will be reimbursed for enterprises based in Malta. For enterprises based in Gozo, this amount is 60%. The maximum grant can be up to 10K, which means that if you want to buy items worth 15,000, for the sake of the argument, if you are based in Malta, you will receive 7,500, and if you are based in Gozo, it will be 9,000 euros. Yes, Sarah, sole traders can benefit from the scheme. It's not a problem at all, no. Lindsay, I'm not sure what Article 11 of the VAT Act means. However, if you are, let's say, a doctor or a vet, which, if memory serves correctly, are exempt from needing to have a VAT number, yes, it's not a problem. You are still eligible to apply under the scheme. Yes, Sarah, one quotation is enough from a single supplier in order to benefit from the scheme. However, it's important to remind everyone that once aid is approved, the item will have to be purchased, the specific item will have to be purchased from the supplier for which a quotation was given at application stage. You cannot come after having been granted aid and ask to buy the item from a different supplier or to buy a different item from the same supplier. Yes, Lindsay, I believe I answered your query about VAT exempt individuals accordingly. The suppliers can be online, the supplier can be a foreign company, supplier does not need to be Maltese, and they do not even need to be based in the EU. However, it's important that the quotation clearly identifies who the eventual supplier is. By that I mean that while you can submit a quote from Amazon.com, for example, it's important that the actual supplier is identified accordingly. So I seem to have rattled through all the queries. I don't know if there's anybody who would like to ask some additional questions. Yes, Sarah, generally the process will take a few weeks from our end. To illustrate the example, applications submitted at the end of the month usually receive feedback from our end towards the middle of the next month. Now, there might be instances where it might take 3 to 4 weeks, for example, but it won't take months and months. The purpose of the scheme is to simplify matters, and simplifying matters for you at application stage also means that things are simplified at our end during the evaluation process. It's always also worth pointing out that if some of the documents are not provided at application stage, the project selection committee will revert to ask the missing or incorrect documents to be rectified. And obviously that will extend the process a little bit until the documents are the necessary documents are submitted from the applicant's end. Would moving from a traditional cash register to a cloud POS system for retail shops be considered eligible for grant? Absolutely, that's kind of the whole point of the scheme. Obviously, you will need to illustrate exactly what items you would need to aid towards. I would imagine some kind of display system, whether it's a monitor or a tablet, as well as cloud storage and the actual software to be used for to manage the cache. Sarah, submission days, they can be found on our website. We usually have 2 cutoff dates per month. It's usually towards the end of the month and on the last working day of the month. For May, they are Monday 15th and Wednesday 31st May. I'm afraid I don't know all the cutoff dates for the whole year. However, for this moment in time, cutoff dates have been announced until the end of the year, which means that you have 2 instances per month where your applications will be received and evaluated. And if you don't manage to submit it by mid-month, you only really have to wait a fortnight or so until the end of the month when the applications will be evaluated. No, Ms. Trabelsi has outlined in the application, you can only apply once for under the scheme. You can then apply under other schemes. For this scheme, only one application will be accepted throughout the lifetime of the scheme. If Miss answering Zendamato, if the company has been incorporated less than 2 years, the documents required for a startup, which I shared my screen to show a little bit earlier, those are what need to be submitted for that particular enterprise. Is the below list in the PDF docs will just be provided with exhaustive? No. We mentioned such as to illustrate the kind of items which might be of interest or which are most queries are include. However, any hardware which can be considered as increasing the level of digitalization of your micro business would be eligible. It's worth keeping in mind that mobile phones are not considered eligible under the scheme. But any items in which an argument can be made that they are increasing your digitalization would be considered as eligible. I seem to have come to the end again until the next question for the queries that you have for me. I don't know if there are any more questions from your end. Do you think a server would be accepted? I have no idea about the how much a server would cost, frankly. But if it would cost less than 20,000, then yes, it would be eligible because obviously it is going to increase the digitalization of your enterprise. Naturally, you need to provide an explanation during your application in which the application which will outline how the item or items will lead to an increase in digitalization. Lynn, the way that we work it is that we use the Jobs Plus database to calculate the annual labor units, the average labor units, which means that Jobs Plus do the calculations themselves based on the employee headcount, and we check at the date of application what was the average amount of employees that the enterprise employed over the last year. So if they employed 9 people for the 364 days prior to the day of application, and they employed 2 individuals on the day that aid was applied for, naturally the average will be something along the lines of 9.01 because that was the amount of employees over the whole period, the whole annual period. The scheme is in the form of a cash grant. It's not tax credit. It is based on reimbursement, which means that at application stage, you will have to provide us, let me rephrase it. At implementation stage, you will have to purchase the items yourselves. You then claim for them back with us. We will outline the documents needed once any application has been approved, and then the money will be given back to the beneficiary as a cash grant. So it seems I might have managed to exhaust all your queries. As Michaela outlined earlier, both us and Servizi Europei of Malta, we are here to assist you. We want to encourage take-up of these kind of schemes, especially since I believe they are very much needed for micro-sized enterprises. Ms. Muscat, what is the timeline of reimbursement, please? It naturally depends on the quality of the document provided with the reimbursement claim. Usually it doesn't take us more than a few weeks at most to process them. However, naturally, it depends on how many claims are there at any given point in time. However, the aim of the scheme is to expedite and simplify the process both for us and for you. So it's therefore in both of our interests to make the process as quick and as painless as possible.
I think there aren't any more questions in the chat box. I've also brought up this slide. We would really appreciate if you could fill in the feedback form. I've posted it in the chat, but I'll also post it again, just to give us your feedback on this session and maybe what we can improve going forward. Again, if you require any assistance, feel free to contact us at info.sem@gov.mt or through our website, or give us a call. We're able to assist you in applying for these funds and also to answer to any queries you may have. I think we can conclude. Thank you very much for joining. We will be sending you the recording in a follow-up email and also the links to the documentation. Thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.